current and selected altitude and an altitude trend vector are almost the same as the related items on the airspeed tape. The tip of the altitude trend vector shows what the altitude will be in 6 seconds. Altitude is always shown in feet. A switch on the EFIS control panel lets you also show altitude in meters. Push the meters switch. Current altitude shows in meters and selected altitude in increments of 10 meters. Push the meters switch again to remove the indications. The meters indications are removed. Set the selected altitude at 3,000 feet. When the selected altitude is off of the indication, the bug parks at the end, the same as with the selected airspeed bug. During pre-flight, a landing altitude flag is shown until the origin airport is entered on the route page. After you put in the origin, a landing altitude indication replaces the flag. The indication is set to the departure airport or runway altitude. The indication changes to the destination airport or runway altitude when the airplane is 400 miles from the departure airport or is more than half the distance to the destination. The landing altitude reference bar extends 1,000 feet above the landing altitude indication. The bar is white from 1,000 feet to 500 feet, and amber from 500 feet to the indication. The barometric setting is shown below the altitude tape in inches of mercury or in hectopascals. You set it with the EFIS control panel. The letter L or R shows which EFIS control panel is the barometric setting reference for the autopilot or flight director. They will be talked about in a different lesson. On the EFIS control panel, the barometric reference selector changes the barometric reference between inches and hectopascals, or HPA. The barometric selector controls the barometric setting. If you turn the barometric selector quickly, it changes the setting in increments of 0.1 inch or 10 hectopascals. Turn the selector slowly to change the setting in increments of 0.01 inch or 1 hectopascal. Now turn the selector to set the current barometric setting 30.00 inches. When the barometric setting is adjusted during pre-flight, the FMC landing altitude indication is set to the departure runway. During climb, the indication changes to amber if the airplane climbs above the transition altitude and the barometric setting is not a standard one. Transition altitude is shown on the VNAV climb page. The barometric standard switch changes the barometric setting between standard and manually set values. Push the barometric standard switch. Standard is now shown and the alert is removed. With standard shown, you can pre-select a barometric setting with the barometric selector. The pre-selected setting will be shown here in the current barometric reference units. Let's pre-select a setting of 1015 hectopascals. First, the pre-selected setting does not show until you turn the barometric selector. Now set 1015 HPA. The pre-selected value will become the barometric setting when you push the standard switch again. During descent, an amber alert shows if the airplane descends below the transition level and standard is the barometric setting. Transition level is shown on the descent forecast page. Push the barometric standard switch to change to the pre-selected barometric setting. The pre-selected setting replaces standard and the alert is removed. If there is not a pre-selected value, the barometric setting you had before standard is shown again. You can also use QFE if it is approved for your operations. For this example, you are on the ground at an airport with a field elevation of 260 feet. You select the landing reference on the approach reference page. The active reference QNH is shown in large green letters. Now select QFE. The altitude tape background changes to green, and the landing altitude reference moves to 0 feet. The barometric setting and the current altitude indication do not change automatically to the related QFE values. The correct QFE altitude is 0, not 260 feet. To correct the indications, you must manually set the correct QFE value. ATC tells you that QFE is 1007 HPA. Change the setting now. The QFE altitude indication is correct. In flight, when the barometric setting is standard, the tape background changes to gray, and a smaller QFE is shown at the side of the pre-select line. Now let's go back to QNH. Select QNH. QNH and the attention box are shown for 10 seconds. The correct MSL altitude is 260 feet. Set 1015 HPA now. The barometric setting on the PFD must be correct for the active landing reference on the approach reference page.